Did want to talk a little bit about Georgia's quarterback. So, two quarterback class, not something we see all that often anymore. I think we used to see it a little bit more often, but Ryan Puglisi and obviously the number one quarterback in the country, Dylan Raiola. What do you like about these guys, and how do you think their skill sets are unique?
So I've been digging through all the quarterbacks, right? Because we've got senior seasons are over. We got signing day, all-star games, our rankings go final. So I'm in the middle of watching all these quarterbacks and started with the Georgia guys. And I'll talk about them here in a second. You said it, Bud. It's rare to see two quarterback classes. And I've been thinking about this like all night and this morning. Is Georgia ahead of the curve here? Just with all the player movement and the quarterbacks moving, like I would just take multiple arms and just let it figure out. Like, these guys are going to transfer. I'm just wondering if like Kirby has kind of figured something out. And now Georgia didn't sign a quarterback in the 2023 cycle. And if you look at what's next, Carson Beck is going to go to the NFL. They got Brock Vandergrift behind him. Gunnar Stockton, who was in the 22 cycle, apparently had a good year. Or wait, was Gunnar Stockton in the 22? I don't know. Was he a 23? I can't remember. I might have just botched that.
He might have been a 22.
Okay.
Bama took 2 last year, but I'm not really sure that those are on the same level personally, just from watching them.
I just think there's limited risk in taking two quarterbacks if you know that the movement and the roster turnover is what it is right now. And I think for Georgia, this kind of sets up perfect for post the Carson Beck, and we'll see who's still in Athens. You have Dylan Raiola, who has been kind of the 5-star from the jump, right? He's been the number one quarterback. I mean, he's the number one quarterback for us right now. He's been the number one player for us. We'll see where he finishes, but he is a known commodity, not just to Georgia fans, but really all college football fans. And then you have this kid, Ryan Puglisi, who goes to school up in Connecticut, and he hasn't had as much hype around him. And I think having watched both those guys' final games here as of their senior seasons, like I don't think there's a massive gap between the two. And I think that sets up perfect for Georgia looking down the line, because Dylan Raiola knows that there is someone right behind him coming for the job. And if you're Ryan Puglisi, you know who you got to beat to win the job. And go back to the Elite 11 finals. I know we keep talking about the Elite 11 finals, but both those guys were there as finalists. And the media tried to drum it up, all right, Puglisi versus Dylan Raiola, and they kind of downplayed it. But having been around quarterbacks for all this time and interacted with them, there's definitely got to be some type of rivalry kind of brewing there. And, Raiola, I thought his senior season was super clean. Went 11-2. They lost this past weekend in the third round of Georgia's playoffs, highest classification. He threw just one interception over the course of the season, just one interception. Interception rate, I think, was 80 or something like that. So one pass every 80 throws.
That's super low. Yeah.
Well, that's his career. Excuse me, that's his career one. He's a big frame guy, and I think what makes him different is he just doesn't take a ton of bad risks. Now, he will push the ball down the field, but you look at Georgia and what they want to do on offense, they want to control the football, right? And, they will take a shot, but they don't want a quarterback that is going to just give it away. And I think that is Dylan Raiola. He protects the football. He's got a baseball background. You'll see it in the highlights and on the social media. He's kind of got that Mahomes sidearm. He tries to, if the opportunity presents itself, he loves to shape shots around defenders. Like you'll be watching a game. He's like, wait, did he really just do that? But I think for him, so number one, it starts protecting the football, and then just how he moves in the pocket and creates and extends plays. I mean, he is 6'3", seen him listed anywhere from 220 pounds to 230 pounds. Like, he's built like Ben Roethlisberger. And I think he kind of moves a little bit like him. So I thought it was a good senior season for him. Didn't have the best wide receivers around him, but he was still clean and efficient. 64.2% passer over his career. Now, Puglisi, on the other hand, I'm starting to come around on him. And He is only one of 3 quarterbacks ever that have been in the Elite 11 finals in the area code games. I'm sure you're familiar with the area code
Yep.
games, but that's what elite baseball camp or
Yeah, you need to be pretty damn good at baseball to play in that, from what I understand. Is that me or did we lose Ivins? I think that might be my internet. We will see.
are we still going?
Yeah, you're still going here. Okay.
I didn't know if you were going to count me in.
No, you're good.
No, I think with Puglisi, so he's another baseball kid. It's funny, both these guys are baseball guys, and he could have played college baseball. I'm sure Dylan Raiola, if he wanted to, he could have as well. He has a ton of velocity on his football, just like Dylan Raiola, but he's got less touch. But I think he's a better athlete, and he's someone that you can run like RPOs with, and you can run designed quarterback draws and stuff, and he's going to pick up yardage. So I thought Puglisi's senior season was impressive. And I don't know. I like the idea of these two potentially battling it out over the next few years in Georgia. And I think Kirby Smart, how he set it up there with that offensive staff. I mean, they're playing like, I don't know, they're playing the long game better than most.
All right. So shocked, surprised, or not surprised if Ryan eventually beats out Dylan?
I would go not surprised.
Not surprised. So this is, and that's more about Ryan being a legitimately really good prospect than it is Dylan. Obviously, like we think Dylan's a hell of a prospect.
Right. I'll put it like this. Another way I thought about it, I think there are, probably 20 Power 5 teams out there that would love to get Ryan Puglisi, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you could drop him in some quarterback rooms and he'd instantly be the guy with the best tools. It just needs to polish and fine tune some things.
You asked like is Georgia ahead of the curve? I think yes, but I'm also not sure what they do is replicable at a whole lot of other places, right? Like they can do some of these things, like recruit 3 of the top 4 linebackers in the country last year because of the logo on the polo and the prestige of the program and the fact that they've won 29 straight or 28 or 29 straight games at this point. Which doesn't make what they're doing not smart or not, like they're clearly pressing an edge, but you have to kind of have the edge to be able to press it. So I'm not really sure how many other teams could really pull that off. A lot of 4-star, 5-star quarterbacks say, I don't know about that. But if you're Georgia, you can kind of like, hey, we're taking 2. It's an edge.
Yeah, I guess let me rephrase it. I just think right now with where we are, and we've talked about it, the NIL, the transfer portal, like if I'm running a recruiting department or I am or head coach at Power 5 school, I'm trying to hoard as many arms as I can because I know every year I'm going to lose these arms. I'm going to lose some of them. So when you look at some of these programs and it's like, hey, you didn't take a quarterback this cycle from the high school ranks. It's like, what are you thinking? Because there's only a certain amount of them out there. And we see it every time a kid enters the transfer portal from a Power 5 school. You're like, oh, there's no way, you have an idea in your head, you have an idea of what level he's going to go. And they usually exceed those expectations and are going to a better program. So that's something I just think not enough schools are taking that approach in terms of like, all right, we got to get arms in, we got to get arms in, we got to get arms in. Back to Georgia, you brought up, I had someone in their building tell me this a few weeks ago. Kirby has made it very clear to that staff that they do not take developmental guys. If they take developmental guys, they will be over-recruited in 1 year. And I think that's the culture that they have created in Athens. CJ Allen, I just mentioned him, freshman linebacker playing 3 games. He knows that Georgia's bringing in dudes the next cycle, and you got to prove it year-round on the practice field. And I think that's the environment, that is there. That is the brand. That is the identity for Georgia. And further evidence of that is how many transfers out of Georgia have we seen gone to other schools and instantly been one of the best players on that defense or offense?
So Tyreek Stevenson, right?
Yep. Jermaine Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson. The receiver at Texas, Eddie Mitchell, but not a ton, right? But there are certainly some.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few.
But you're going to have, when you recruit that level, you're going to have, dudes still have that. If you're good enough to get a scholarship to Georgia, your natural physical ability is going to be pretty much off the charts at this point.
Yeah.
So you would expect to have some, but I agree with you. They do a great job of self-selecting, but what it doesn't mean, what you don't want to do is do the late stage Mac Brown Texas thing where you're only where you're taking finished products only, right? And you're not staying attuned to who's still developing throughout their senior year of high school, because if you take just the guys who are the best at the end of their junior year and you fill up your class early, which Georgia doesn't do this, but clearly you need to kind of always just be mindful of, all right, some guys develop on a different timeline. And I think there are some guys where it's all right, he's not a project, but he's probably not a guy who can play for us as a freshman. You know what I'm saying? We don't take developmental guys, meaning we don't want to take a guy who just, if he hits, it'll be a hit in year 4. But clearly, you have to be tolerable of guys who could hit in year 2.
I think they're so dialed in and calculated that everyone is brought in with an assumed timeline, and if they aren't meeting certain criteria at certain points, then you will be passed up. And they do. I mean, they aren't just recruiting based off of junior seasons. Look what they've done here in recent weeks. They go and flip Naz Johnson, defensive lineman out of Georgia, who is committed to Florida. They flip him. He's had a heck of a senior season. They flipped Andre Evans, a defensive back out of Tennessee from LSU. They're about to take Marcellus Barnes, corner that was previously committed to Virginia Tech. You got Terrell Anderson, the receiver that was committed to NC State. Those guys evaluate, and it's impressive. And almost all of them camp in the summer as well.
They're basically just picking and choosing at this point.
Drafting.
That's it, man. They're doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon, for sure.